Hi, I'm Tom Stephenson, and welcome to this edition of MS Project Made Easy. Today, we're going to be looking at resource over allocations. And so this is where you've applied more resources than you told the program that you have available for you. And a few things happen when you apply more resources than you had available, or you told the program that you had available. And if you're not familiar with adding resources, please subscribe to my channel. It helps me out a lot by building a community. You just click the subscribe icon, and basically under the playlist MS Project, you'll see a lot of the predecessor videos, pardon the pun with Microsoft Project. And if this is a little bit more advanced for you, you can go back and you can watch ones such as resource loading so that you get the foundational part. But in this particular example, because it's a little bit more advanced, I'm going to be starting off with a resource loaded schedule. And right now I think I'm in the usage view, so I'm just going to start us where you would probably be, which would be the entry view. And so whatever your project is, if you've been using Microsoft Project, you would have the entry view where you've added activities, you've added resources. And one of the things that I've done over here, in order to have resources, I had to create resources on my resource table or resource sheet. So you slide to the left where it says Gantt chart, you right click, you slide down to resource sheet. And so I've created these resources in the resource sheet, and I have some resources which are work, meaning that they're going to be by the hourly rate, and I've assigned them. Now currently for the resource laborers, I've assigned a maximum of 500%. If you don't do anything and you just create a resource, it's automatically going to just say 100%. 100% is the same as 1. 200% is 2. 300% is 3. So I've actually put in 500%, which means I could have up to 5 laborers before the program would tell me, hey, you've added more than 5. What do you want to do here? Right now, if I go back to my screen, I'll come back here in a second. If I go back to my Gantt chart, I slide to the left, I right click, click Gantt chart. You could of course just go up here if you're in the view tab, and you could click Gantt chart, and that would bring up the Gantt chart view. But for me, I usually just slide across to the left, right click. I find that's quicker. Go to Gantt chart, and I'm just going to cancel out of this. So go to the Gantt chart, and then I'm back in my entry view where I started, right? So what I want to do here is I want to first of all see if I have any over allocations going on. So in this screen, I've probably deleted previously my indicator column. I usually always like to have the indicator column. So I right click, insert column, type I for indicators, and that brings up this indicator column. The indicator column will tell you if anything is going on with a particular activity, it'll flag it for you. And the same thing goes with resource over allocations. If you add more resources than you said you have available, there'll be a little indicator, looks like a little Martian red guy in that box, and you know, oh, I've over allocated there, so what do I want to do? So right now, if I scroll down on this project, I don't see any over allocations there at all. I could have also seen that on my resource sheet. It would also show me in red if there was an over allocation. So I'm going to go back there, because you can see here I've got laborers in a few spots where I've assigned them, and it's kind of scattered all over the place, where I've got more than one laborer assigned. Where it just says laborer, that just means that if I go to my resource tab, assign resources, that just means that I've only assigned one unit, so one labor. So I'm going to go back, and I'm going to go to that resource sheet, right click, scroll down resource sheet, and I am going to change this to 100%, and let's see what happens. All right, so when I change that to 100%, this turns red, right? There's a little Martian guy there, as I said. It says if you hover over it, that's that indicator column in this view, it says this resource is over allocated. Okay, that doesn't still tell me what much, because I'm not sure where it's over allocated. So I'm going to slide to the left, right click, go back to my Gantt chart, and I'm going to go over here And I can see, oh, there's a few places where there's a lot of places where it is over allocated. And it's all mixed in my project, right? And I know it's laborers, so it's all mixed in my project. Maybe I would just like to see the activities that the laborer is assigned to, just to get an idea what's going on. So just to remind you, you can always filter out, if you go to the View tab, you could filter by resource. You could say filter and just show me the resource, using the resource that is laborers. So I could look down here, I could say laborers, and I could see all the assignments of laborers, and then I could see where they're over allocated. In this particular case, they're pretty much over allocated on everything. So that's something to keep in mind. Now I could also pretty quickly see that where I've got laborers assigned. It'd also be where they overlap each other, if there's any overlapping goes on. So if I had laborers on one activity and laborers on another and they happen to overlap a little bit, it would also indicate that for me too. If I take a look at hoardings and fencing, I could go to the resource tab, I could check assign resources, and I can see, okay, so that's 100% for the laborers there. If I wanted to split my screen, because there's another indicator that I can look at for this, I could slide to the left and I could right click, and there's actually what we call in the resource area here, there's a resource graph. And if I look at the resource graph, I can scroll through till I find the resource that is laborers. So I could look for laborers. There it is. And that would show me where I have potential over allocations. Problem with this is you kind of have to go along and see what's going on. So you can see I've in blue, that's my 100%. That's what I said I have available. And some places you can see it's quite extensively over the allocation, and other places just slightly over the allocation. And if I slide along, then it switches where it's okay, and then it switches back down. But that's still, I would like to see it in association with the actual work that's going on. So I find if you just have it in this view, it's a little bit confusing. So I would just slide to the left. We're back in the entry view, and of course we have this filtered out for the laborers like we had before. By the way, you notice this big timeline in here. I'm just going to squeeze that up. I did a video on this earlier. I think it was tutorial 9 on how to do presentations and highlight what's going on in your project by showing milestones and summary tasks and that sort of thing using the timeline. So if you want, you can always go to the playlist and take a look at that. So in this particular screen here that we have, we've got the laborers outline. And I was just showing you the histogram, or the graph, resource graph, but it's a histogram, and of the resources. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this. If you're in the View tab, so you got to go to the View tab, I'm going to click on Details. It splits the screen. There's a whole bunch of things, different screens that you can see under the split screen. But for this period, for this video, I'm just going to slide to the left like I just did previously. And you can actually show the resource graph in the split screen. And it's kind of cool because it will show you on the same time scale as the activities that are listed above. And so if I wanted the activities that are listed above to be maybe more spread out, because I'm kind of zoomed out right now, where 2 days, it's like just, you can hardly see it because it's in a month, and each column is representing a month. That gets a little bit confusing too when you're looking at a histogram. I'm going to go to, under the View tab, so I'm there already. I'm going to go to Days. I'm going to go to Days. Click here first. There we go. And I'm going to go to Days again. We'll try that. There we are. So we're in Days right now. Now this is really good because I can actually scroll to the task. So I go scroll to task. And now I can see it. Now I can see it lined up based on the activities. So I can see which activities are over allocated and which ones are not. And I can also pull this to the side here so I can see what I've assigned to the heading. So you see here I've actually assigned a laborer to the whole project. What that really essentially means is, because I said we only have one laborer, whenever I add a laborer anywhere else, it's going to mark it as over allocated. Now what I could do when I sort of scroll along and I see what's going on here, right? When I see that I have, for example, exterior cleanup, I can go scroll to task. It'll show me that, right? So that scroll to task is really helpful when you've got the split screen and you want to see exactly what is going on. So you can scroll to the task and you can see over the Tuesday, the Wednesday, the Thursday, what's going on. You could also, by the way, with the time scale, like I've shown you in different videos, you could squeeze that a little bit closer together if you wanted to see more weeks in an individual shot. So like I just double clicked on the time scale up here, it brings up the time scale, and I sized it down. When I click on OK, it'll show more days in my screen, so I can see more what's actually going on. So for example, here it's showing an over allocation. I've got this overlapping with that. I've got one laborer, two laborers, and then of course I said I have one assigned to the whole project on the work part of the project anyways. So that's why you actually see where they overlap, how that interacts with each other. So right now, you could go to any of these and you could check them out and you could see what's going on. Then you'd have to troubleshoot it. You'd have to decide, well, what am I going to do about these over allocations that I've got going on? What are we going to try to correct? So what you would ask yourself is, well, one laborer is not enough. So maybe you just never put 2 on your resource sheet. So you know you've got 3 laborers available, but you only left it at 1. Well, you could always go back to slide to the left, right click, go to your resource sheet, and then what you could do under the resources on your resource sheet, right, under the entry view, we're filtered out for laborers. You could say that you want to have, for example, 100. You want to have 200% here. Now let's make it 300%. So that'll get rid of some of them. It's not going to get rid of all of them. So what's going to happen here is we put 300%. So now when we go back, we should only see an over allocation in areas where we have more than 3 resources. So now you only see it in places where you've got more than 3. So you notice now it just, of course, the top one's going to show it. If you have any over allocated anywhere, it'll show it on the top one because we assigned laborers to the top one. And we can see it here. So we've got here clear site and grubbing, and scroll to task. So there it is. We've assigned 4. So what we could do then, we could decide, all right, let's go to our resources, assign resources, and we could say here with 400, we could say let's make that 300%. And we'll click that there. And of course that changes our days. And maybe we're not happy with the days that is. Maybe we even want to change that. Instead of 3 1/3 days, we're going to make that 4 days. So if we go back here, we'll probably have to, 4 days. So we've got 4 days at 300%. And so we've adjusted that one. Of course. Now we're still over allocated. Why is that? Well, I've changed it to 300%, but it still is overlapping with who we assigned to the whole project, which was laborers there under construction. So we have to adjust it again. And that's why, you've got to take a look at it, sort of think what's going on with that. And then we could click on this and we could do that again. And we could say, you know what? It's got to be 200%. That means we'll have 3 laborers on the site. If we go 200%, and that changes that to 6 days, that's effort-driven scheduling. If you don't know what effort-driven scheduling is, check out the previous video, but it's basically a linear relationship to units, duration, and work, and so they interact together. So right now we've gotten rid of that over allocation. Now we got to check, are there any more over allocations? And in this case, that was the last one. So now we're set. We've had to adjust our time frame, but now that is setting us up. Now I don't know, we can go back to the view icon, get rid of this filter that we put on it so we can see the whole project. Check the whole project that we don't have any over allocations, which we don't. You'd want to check, did this change the finish date? You know, was that item that we just fixed on the critical path or not? If it was on the critical path and we made it longer, it's going to make our project longer. If it's not on the critical path, it wouldn't. So then you have to look at other things that you may have to do as a consequence to those adjustments. But again, if I slide to the left, I can, so I'm in the resource graph here. I'm actually not going to slide to the left. I'm going to go over to where? To the task tab, and I'm going to click on details. And if you're down here, if you click on details once, it brings you back to here. If you click on it again, it brings your whole screen up. So the details is where you can split your screen and you can review that. And that's dealing with over allocations. Now, some of you are going to find that when you click on resource, you're going to see this leveling options over here. And you're going to be, oh, leveling options. And it's going to be like, oh, level all. You could get Microsoft Project to automatically level everything for you. You could go into leveling options and say automatic. And then you'll never have an over allocation. What you'll have is a nightmare because Microsoft Project is going to level and change. You know how I changed the duration? I gave it some thought and I adjusted it. It's going to do it automatically. What a nightmare. It doesn't know what you need to do, where you need to add somebody. It has no idea. And the program will behave really, really strange for you. One time between versions, when I went to a newer version of Microsoft Project, it was loaded in our computer labs and they were all loaded and they all, I guess in the options, had it set up for automatic. And I couldn't understand why when I was doing things, it was moving things around and it was making me crazy till I figured out that they had it preset on automatic. So my advice is go with manual. Don't do any auto leveling. Stay away from that. Keep it on manual. You'll figure it out because it's your project. You want to run it the way you want to run it. So don't let Microsoft Project tell you how to level. But just know that you do need to level so that if there's some sort of conflict or you've set a parameter, why is it showing this over allocation? And then just either add more people to it or look at it and say, I want to offload some of those people or spread them out so that you don't have that over allocation. So that should be very helpful for you that way. So that's what I wanted to cover today with regards to over allocations, giving you a little bit of idea how you can split the screen. You can look at the resource graph or the histogram and see how the loading is working and think the process through. It gets more complicated than that when you get into project management theory. Again, I've got other playlists that you can take a look at and dive more deeply, but using Microsoft Project, this is how it behaves. So I'm Tom Stephenson, wishing you a wonderful day. And if you haven't subscribed yet, please click the subscribe button and we'll see you in future videos. Bye for now.